Gabriel Iglesias. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, Iglesias. Okay, Iglesias.
Or Fluffy.
I know you. You're a comedian. You were gonna perform an operation and bring that Nintendo back to life.
Messaged me and said he wanted a modded Game Boy. So we talked a little bit and he decided to have a blacked out Game Boy Color. So we have our black shell, black buttons, black silicone pads, our Game Boy of course. We have our power bore, an audio amp, a new speaker, and of course a Q5 IPS screen. So let's build this for him and hopefully he'll love it. Okay, so we're going to start with our motherboard here. So this is going to need a new speaker as well as this new power board. Now this power board is just going to help clean the audio up a little bit as well as just ensure everything runs cleanly and smoothly, considering that we're adding extra power draw with the screen as well as the amp. We want to make sure that everything runs at top notch. So the first step on this is going to be trimming this little leg right here. Unfortunately, there's this plastic block here, so I'm not too sure how I'm going to kind of mitigate that. I might be able to break it away or trim it. I just don't want to be pulling at it and scraping the board or something like that. So I'm going to get my flush cutters and I'm going to see if I can cut that. Okay, so I definitely cut it. I'd like to be able to see the cut that I made though, just to ensure that, you know, it's not going to touch again, basically. I want to make sure that it's actually off. But what we can do here is I'll add some heat to the back of this pin and just try to pull it right out. Add some heat and pull. Perfect. Now I know for a fact that nothing's going to touch and we're set. Now the next thing I need to do is remove this capacitor because this new power board made by HelderTech has the capacitor kind of added onto it, and that just helps ensure that the audio is clean. So easiest way I've found to remove surface capacitors is just grab it and twist. And then once that's off, you're just going to add a little bit of heat to the pads here and remove, come on now, those legs that were left over. Okay, perfect. Now, this is going to bloop, 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 sit on this board just like this. And I'm going to add a little bit of solder to these points, and then it's on. That's a wicked easy install. I've never installed one of these. Actually, it was somebody that mentioned in my comments that if you use this power board, you don't have to replace the capacitor, because I usually upgrade the capacitor. But they mentioned that if you use this one, you didn't have to do that. So I was pretty excited to try it. I love trying new products. Now, just to be extra safe, I want to make sure that none of those are shorted. We're going to put it on continuity. Beep means there's continuity. We don't want to beep. So that's good. No beep. And nothing there. And nothing there. Perfect. That's what we want. Now let's remove this old speaker. So super simple. What I do is I just gently pull on the wires from behind and just heat up the solder on these 2 points. And ow, it slides out. Usually I don't burn myself. And then I'll use my solder sucker to just remove the solder from these 2 points. And that looks pretty good, yeah. Now I'm going to move on to the screen, Q5 IPS screen. What we're going to do really quick here is test it. So I'm just going to plug it in. And this Game Boy came to me without a screen. So I don't even know if it works. But we will soon find out. Hopefully everything works. And if it doesn't work, then I got to find a regular screen and test it that way. They always recommend you test these before you install them, because once you install them, the warranty's void and you can't return them. Perfect. Looks great and it works. Before I install this screen, I want to clean that power switch, and this one's really hard to open up. They're usually not this bad. There we go. Finally. Okay. That doesn't look too bad. It's still a little gunky. Get some alcohol and we'll just clean that out to the best of our abilities, and that's what we're looking at there. Pretty dirty. I'm going to clean these as well. Put that switch back in, and then I'm going to put the lid back on. There we are. Okay, now being super careful because I've done it 100 times where I touch the screen and unintentionally leave a fingerprint on there. Perfect. I don't think any fingerprints got on there. Just gonna do a quick peek here to be sure. And it looks good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay. Let's put that plastic back on, and our screen is installed. Okay, so now we have a piece of paper here that says attach this insulating film to the metal surface on the back of the screen. So what I like to do with this is attach this film to the metal surface on the back of the screen. Boop. So usually you solder these wires from this PCB to P12, P11, and P10. However, because we have a translucent case, you'll see those wires. So we're going to solder them to the vias up here to ensure that you can't see those. We'll need a little bit of flux. Perfect. Just the smallest amount. This would be a good time to use my microscope. So let's melt this flux really quick. Got a hair on there. Let's just kind of like get that out of there. This one. And this one. And this one here. There we are. Now we'll solder our wires to them. Here is our first wire. This is our select, if I recall. Okay, next we're going to put in our buttons and our silicone. Silicone just being the conductive pads that when you push on them you get button input. I think they accidentally sent me two. Hold on just a second. Nice. Thanks, Handheld Legend. These are funny playing buttons. So we're going to put these into our shell, which I don't think I mentioned, but it's from RetroSix. I don't know if there is a name for the speaker. I hadn't seen it before and I bought it because it was clear. But we'll go from there. So we have our board flipped over. And again, I'm just going to use a little bit of this Captain tape. I can never remember the name of it. Heat resistant tape. And I'm just going to put it down right here. And this is again just to encourage these wires not to tear. Okay, perfect. And we will put our speaker in right here. Perfect. Leave our wires out so I can deal with those later. We'll put our power switch in. Perfect. Now I have noticed with these shells before that sometimes the power switch is really stiff. So what I'm going to do is just get my file, if I find it, here we go, and just very gently file down the bump that gives it resistance. There's a good chance I'll have to reopen this and file that again, but until then, we'll see. Actually, it feels pretty good right now, so we'll see. If you're curious about the toolkit that I'm using here, I'll link everything in the description there. If you click the link that says tools I use, it'll take you to Amazon affiliated links of all these tools that I use throughout my builds or have used in my builds. If I didn't like it, or if I found it didn't work, I didn't include it in the list. So these are little touch pads, and this is for color change and things like that. So these just go in the corners, almost like bumpers. Carefully. Don't fold the tape. Now I can remake these. I have copper tape and I have remade them. They're not too bad to remake, but I prefer not to. Prefer just do it the way they're intended to. So there's one. Okay, next we have our audio amp. So these are fairly straightforward. Gonna need some wire. I'm going to use black wire so you don't see it easily as you would red. Because I don't think I'll be able to really hide this wire as nice as I hid the wire from the LCD. Okay, so this isn't very big. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fit it basically right here, and we're gonna solder everything onto it. Now, the good thing is that the solder points for this are literally right here, right here, right here, right here, and then over here. So really, these extra long wires I don't really need. And there we go. That should hopefully be a functional audio amp. And this is just going to make sure that the audio amp worked. Fingers crossed. I have no idea if it did. And I have no idea if this Game Boy even has audio. Oh God, that's horrendous. Okay, what would cause that? Okay, small issues, small issues. Small issues indeed. Let's see if adjusting this does anything. One of these screwdrivers is bound to work. Here we go. Come on. This one. Yeah. Let's try that. No change. Okay. What can be causing that? Oh. So it took a while, but I finally figured out that audio interference. But let me tell you how I got there first. I tried replacing the speaker, nothing happened. I tried taking out the audio amp entirely, nothing happened. I tried removing the headphone jack, I tried cleaning the headphone jack, didn't work. Tried removing the headphone jack and then jumping it, didn't work. I tried jumping the power switch, thinking that maybe that could cause it, didn't work. I removed the Helder power board and reattached the wire that I had cut. And that worked. There's no more audio interference. So I thought maybe I just had a faulty Helder board. And then I removed the original power board and put on just the Helder board, and now it still works. So for whatever reason, those two boards just didn't like each other. Most likely it was just an installation error on my part and I just couldn't figure it out. But we have it rectified now. It just took a very long time to get there. Unfortunately, one of the downsides to these clear shells is that they can be brittle and fragile, especially when you're unscrewing things. So that's exactly what happened. As I was taking this apart, I broke the screw terminal that was in there. So not a big deal. I just had to order a new shell, but it took 2 weeks to get here. So that delayed everything, and I really get annoyed when that happens. I need to start ordering extras, honestly. But here's another issue I'm having. So everything I've read and seen says, like, usually once you put one of these screens in, especially with the adhesive, there's no getting them out. You'll break the screen trying to get it out because they're super, super fragile. So I'm going to try to remove it without breaking it, because if I do break it, I'm going to have to order a new one, and that's another 2 weeks. Now, luckily, I do have another shell here. Oh, this actually just popped right out. That was like, I didn't intentionally do that. That just kind of happened on its own there. Cool. That's neat. All right. So what I was going to do was use some alcohol to destroy the adhesive, but I don't have to. Wow. Okay. That neat. Okay. I kind of had this whole bit planned. So I bought a new one of these. It's adhesive. So let's put it on. Oh, I'm just like flabbergasted. Okay. So really everything I'm doing right now isn't new. I've already done this. So I'm going to come back when I'm ready to put this all back together. I'm literally just going to reinstall the screen just like I had done earlier. All right, so I think I'm at the point that I left off before everything went terribly wrong. So I now have everything put into the shell. I did give this a little bit of a test before I started filming because I wanted to ensure that it works before putting these screws in, because that would have been terrible if it didn't work and I had to try to take out those screws again. So didn't want to do that. So I at least know it comes on and the screen comes on. So let's take a gander at that really quick here. The power. Perfect. So there's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of audio interference. Not a lot. Any kind of music's going to overpower it, so I'm not too concerned. I did everything I could. That's just basically going to be power coming off the screen. I recapped it. I have that Helder power board on there with the capacitor that's added to it, and I've cleaned every single contact you can. And really, like, that's all you're really going to hear. I probably can actually adjust it. Let's see if this will fix it, actually. Yeah, kind of worked. So first of all, we're going to test our touch. So this is brightness control, and over here is our color change. So that we know those work. Now we have button input, so hold and select AB. Now I can adjust my brightness from here, but what I want to do is adjust the vertical and horizontal position. Just want to line that up because it was a little bit too far to the right. And I think that is good. This is a tester cart from Natalie the Nerd, and basically this is just going to allow me to test every function of this Game Boy to ensure that it all works. This is our button test. All the buttons work flawlessly. Press B to make sure there's a smooth scroll. That looks good. And then we have our sound test, a little obnoxious. This Game Boy is fully functional. So let's finally close this up and hopefully never have to open it again. Okay, so just my little signature in there. And there we are. So usually I put that in the sticker spot that's usually on the back of these shells because I made it to look like the Nintendo helpline, but that's okay. So now we have our completed Game Boy. Now beside the Game Boy itself, Fluffy also requested Tetris and Super Mario Land if I had them. Funny enough, I don't sell modded systems, just regular systems, games. If I do, they're usually someone else's and they just ask if I could sell them for them, and then I just give them the money when it sells, of course. Now, ironically enough, a buddy of mine had given me a case of different handhelds as well as some games, and he asked if I could sell them for him. So that's where this motherboard came from. And oddly enough, these two games were in the pile of, I think, 7 games he sent me. So I'm just going to clean these up and I'm going to send them to him as well. These are a little bit yellowed. Unfortunately, I don't really want to retrobrite that because retrobriting weakens plastic. And my concern is because these are such a high use and just kind of like high abused item that they'll crack if I do that. So I'm just going to clean them up to the best of my abilities and we'll go from there. So I clean games by using a rubber eraser. So what I'm going to do is I'll just clean half of these. This side over here has been polished with the eraser and this side has not. So we'll just finish that off now. And this is just 99% alcohol, just to kind of clean up the rest of it. We'll clean up the back here a little bit too. Don't really need to, but it doesn't hurt. This one's actually a little dirty. Now let's see if we can clean these cases up. I don't want to mix those two up. Hope I didn't already mix those two up. But what we'll do here is we'll get a toothbrush, a little bit of 70% because this is plastic. Just kind of covering the label with my finger here, just to avoid getting some alcohol on it. So let's test out these games here just to be sure that that cleaning worked and that they're good to go. Obviously we know Tetris works. Tetris always works. There it is. Now Super Mario Land. Perfect. And that power switch, oh, perfect. Like that filing really, oh, just honed it in. Okay. So this Game Boy and our 2 games are like 99.9% complete. I'm gonna get my logo card here, soak the heck out of it with alcohol. In the system, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And there we go. Let that dry out a little bit. That just kind of gives it a good cleaning. Actually, wait a second. Wait a gosh darn second. I just bought this. What am I doing? I bought this from, what was it? Retro Modding. I forgot about this. I don't know how it works. There's no instructions. Okay, I'm gonna find out how this works and then clean it afterwards. But yeah, nice. I completely forgot I had this thing. So I'll clean that, but as of right now, this Game Boy is complete. That's it. So Gabriel's Game Boy is complete. Let's get ready to ship it out. I take a lot of pride in my packaging, so I just wanted to kind of show some of that off a little bit here. So I always put these in a plastic bag to ensure that if there's any water that gets onto the box here, it doesn't get damaged. I'm gonna put it into some bubble wrap. Really roll that up. All right, we'll get our box here. We're gonna line the inside with some bubble wrap. I basically package these so if someone's having a bad day and they just decide to boot this box across the room, everything inside will survive. So I wanna make sure it's nice and soft on the bottom in case it's dropped. We're going to plant our Game Boy in here. And I always like to have side protection as well here, so I gotta make sure that these bubbles come up the sides, that way it can move each way. We'll put our games on top. So I know that is safe. That's not going anywhere. Now with every single repair I do, I always include treats, especially if you're from outside Canada. I include treats that you can't get in the United States. So because this is a bit of a special one, I kind of went all out. We've got Coffee Crisp, Big Turk, Caramel. We've got wine gummies, Thrills gum. It tastes like soap. It still tastes like soap, says right on the package. Mr. Big, Aero Bar, Smarties, can't go wrong. An Eat More bar, not a big fan. And some glossettes. It's just chocolate raisins. I also have a postcard here from my home, Cape Breton Island, with a little note on the back there. And of course, my own stickers available on my website, and some stickers that came with the package from one of the sites I ordered from. If you go to handheldlegends.com and use code VideoGameRestoration, you could save 10%, and it helps me out. It gives me a little bit of extra money to kind of play with these things. Now, Gabriel, if you ever watch this, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to build you a Game Boy. I am absolutely just flabbergasted that you would even talk to someone like me, some nerd in a basement building Game Boys. So thank you so much. I truly hope you enjoy it. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a nice big thumbs up. It'll really help. And if you want to see more builds like this, maybe not celebrity builds, but who knows, hit that subscribe button. Now, as always, I am self-taught and I have no formal training in this, so I encourage everybody to learn with me, but please don't imitate me without first doing your own research. This is just in case I made mistakes somewhere. I don't want anybody making the same mistakes.